Let's get right into it. Number 10, spontaneous combustion surprise. All right, picture this. You're just chilling, maybe watching some cat videos because who isn't? And suddenly, poof, you're a human bonfire. Sounds like the plot of a low-budget horror flick, right? Well, while actual, honest-to-goodness, spontaneous human combustion is likely more myth than reality, sorry to burst your fiery bubble, let's entertain the utterly bizarre what-if scenario. If your atoms decided to throw a rave and you became the disco ball, what's your survival strategy? First off, screaming might feel natural, but it's not exactly putting out any flames. Your best bet is probably the most unglamorous move imaginable, smothering yourself. Grab the nearest non-flammable object, a thick blanket, a rug, maybe even a very confused pet, though we strongly advise against the pet option. Roll around like you're trying to extinguish the world's most embarrassing campfire. The goal is to cut off the oxygen supply to your personal inferno. Of course, the sheer improbability of this event means your chances are already astronomically low, in a good way. But hey, knowing how to handle a sudden internal combustion party might just win you a very strange anecdote at your next social gathering. Oh, you think your day was weird? Let me tell you about the time I almost spontaneously combusted. Number 9, rogue black hole snack attack. Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We're venturing into the realm of cosmic absurdity here. Imagine a tiny, rogue black hole, the size of a golf ball maybe, but with the mass of like a small planet because physics is weird, decides to pop into existence right in your living room. Suddenly, your prize-winning porcelain cat collection is spiraling into oblivion, followed by the sofa, and then you. Now, you can't exactly outrun a black hole. Its gravitational pull is the ultimate cosmic vacuum cleaner. So what do? Well, the key here is to be as boring and non-massive as possible. Maybe try thinking really bland thoughts, like the tax code or the nutritional information on a plain cracker. The less mass you have, the less appealing you are as a cosmic snack. Alternatively, and this is highly theoretical, you could try to offer it something more appealing. Perhaps that fruitcake your Aunt Mildred keeps gifting you? It's dense, nobody likes it. Maybe a black hole has equally questionable taste. Look, the odds of this happening are so infinitesimally small that you're more likely to win the lottery while being struck by lightning. Twice. But if you ever find yourself in this uniquely terrifying situation, remember, be boring, and maybe have some spare fruitcake handy. Number 8, sentient toilet uprising. Let's face it, your toilet has seen things, unspeakable things, and what if one day it decides it's had enough? What if your porcelain throne gains sentience and a thirst for, well, who knows what a sentient toilet would be thirsty for? Revenge? More bleach? The possibilities are as unsettling as they are hilarious. If your toilet decides to stage an uprising, your first instinct might be to run. Smart, but what if it's a smart toilet? Maybe it can block the door or flood the bathroom with, well, you know. Your best bet in this truly bizarre scenario is probably negotiation. Try to understand its grievances. Maybe it's tired of harsh scrubbing, or perhaps it feels unappreciated. Offer it a truce, promise gentler cleaning products, maybe a fancy scented disc. If diplomacy fails and your toilet turns hostile, you might have to resort to more drastic measures. Unplug it? That feels cruel. Maybe try confusing it with philosophical questions. What is the meaning of porcelain existence? A moment of existential crisis might just buy you some time to, I don't know, call a plumber who specializes in existential plumbing emergencies. Look, this scenario is firmly in the realm of things that will absolutely never happen, but hey, at least you're now prepared for the day your bathroom fixtures develop a vendetta. Number 7, the Great Squirrel Takeover. You're strolling through the park, enjoying the sunshine, when you notice something off. The squirrels aren't just scampering around, they're organized. They're communicating, and they seem to be looking at you with a newfound glint of intelligence in their beady little eyes. Congratulations, you're living in the opening scene of a B-movie titled Nutty Nightmare, The Squirrel Uprising. If these bushy-tailed bandits decide to stage a full-scale takeover, your usual tactics of shooing them away with a dismissive wave aren't going to cut it. These aren't your average park rodents anymore. They're clearly plotting something. Your best defense is probably to avoid direct confrontation. They have numbers, they have tiny, sharp claws, and they can climb things with terrifying agility. Instead, focus on de-escalation. Offer them a peace treaty in the form of, well, nuts. Lots of nuts. Create a diversion. Maybe set up a strategically placed pile of acorns far away from your location. If things get really hairy, pun intended, remember their weaknesses. They're easily distracted by shiny objects. Deploy a handful of spare change or a discarded CD to create a moment of chaos and make your escape. And for goodness sake, avoid any trees. They have home field advantage there. While a squirrel apocalypse sounds utterly ridiculous, remember that nature can be surprisingly unpredictable. Maybe start carrying a bag of emergency nuts, just in case. Number 6. Sudden rewinding of time, but only for you. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a conversation, maybe about the proper way to load a dishwasher, a surprisingly contentious topic, and suddenly everything around you starts moving backward. People are untalking, your spilled coffee is magically reassembling itself in the cup, and you're the only one going forward in a world moving in reverse. This isn't a quirky arthouse film, this is your new, incredibly disorienting reality. Your first instinct might be panic, which is understandable, but hyperventilating backward probably won't help. The key to surviving this temporal anomaly is observation. Since you're the only one moving forward, you have a unique perspective on what will happen. Pay attention to reversed conversations, rewinding actions. You essentially have a cheat code to the immediate future. Use this to your advantage. See someone about to trip, you know exactly where their foot will land in the forward timeline. Witness a dropped ice cream cone reforming? You now know to avoid that spot in a few seconds. The biggest challenge will be communication. Trying to explain to someone why you're suddenly moving in a bizarre, jerky fashion while they're unsaying their last sentence is going to be difficult. Maybe try charades, pointing at things that are about to happen? Look, this scenario bends the very fabric of reality, but if it ever happens, remember, you're like a time-traveling ghost in your own life. Use your backward knowledge wisely, and try not to step on any reforming puddles. Number 5. The floor is actually secretly lava. Remember that childhood game where the floor was a molten hellscape and your living room furniture became your only salvation? What if that wasn't just a game? What if one Tuesday afternoon, your linoleum decided to live up to its fiery potential? Suddenly, every step is a potential crispy critter moment. Your survival hinges on 2 things: agility and knowing your environment. Immediately start identifying safe zones, chairs, tables, that weirdly sturdy ottoman your grandma left you. Plan your route carefully. This isn't the time for leisurely strolls. You need to move with purpose and precision. Think like a parkour expert, but with a significantly higher risk of 3rd-degree burns. Utilize any non-floor-touching aids you can find. Strategically placed throw pillows, a very long jump rope, if you happen to have one handy. Maybe even convince a bewildered family member to act as a temporary stepping stone. Results may vary. The biggest danger, aside from the obvious immolation risk, is panic. Don't make rash decisions. A poorly calculated leap could land you in a very literal hotspot. Remember, this isn't just about reaching safety, it's about navigating a newly hostile landscape with whatever household items you have at your disposal. So, that dusty exercise ball in the corner? It might just be your fiery floor escape vehicle. Who knew? Number 4. Everything you touch turns invisible. You wake up one morning, reach for your phone, and it's gone. Except you can still vaguely feel it in your hand. Congratulations, you've entered a world where your Midas touch has taken a bizarre see-through turn. Everything you touch becomes instantly invisible. This might sound like a prank from a particularly mischievous deity, but for you, it's a survival challenge. Simple tasks become monumental. How do you open a door when the handle vanishes upon contact? How do you eat breakfast when your toast becomes a phantom limb of carbohydrates? The key to navigating this transparent apocalypse is spatial awareness and a whole lot of string. Before you touch anything vital, try to mentally map its location. Use your other senses, sound, smell, and that weird 6th sense that tells you where you left your keys, to guide you. String becomes your best friend. Tie it around doorknobs, cutlery, anything you might need to interact with. The string remains visible, acting as a ghostly outline of the now invisible object. Another crucial strategy is to move slowly and deliberately. Fumbling around blindly will only lead to more invisible chaos and potentially knocking over that invisible vase your aunt gave you. Remember, while you can't see what you're touching, it's still physically there. You haven't gained the power of intangibility, just invisibility. So proceed with caution, embrace the string, and maybe invest in a good pair of gloves, assuming you can still find them after you touch them. Number 3. Gravity suddenly works sideways. You're walking down the street, minding your own business, when suddenly, whoosh, you're no longer being pulled towards the center of the earth, but towards, say, the east. Gravity has decided to take a vacation from its usual downward direction and reoriented itself by 90 degrees. This is less a gentle shift and more a sudden, disorienting plummet into the nearest vertical surface. Survival in sideways gravity requires an immediate recalibration of your entire existence. Walking is now climbing, or rather clinging, and the ground is now a potentially lethal wall. Your primary goal is to secure yourself to something stable. Grab onto anything you can: lampposts, fences, bewildered pedestrians, though they're likely dealing with their own sideways gravity issues. Once you've anchored yourself, start thinking strategically. Movement will be energy-intensive and potentially dangerous. Prioritize essential tasks. How do you get food and water when the fridge is now sideways and everything inside is likely a gravity-defying projectile? Look for natural handholds and footholds. Buildings will become your new landscape. Think less human walking and more spider-person navigating a bizarre cityscape. And for goodness sake, be mindful of falling objects. What was once safely on a shelf is now a potential sideways projectile with the full force of gravity behind it. This new reality is disorienting, dangerous, and likely to give you a permanent neck cramp. But with quick thinking and a strong grip, you might just survive the day. Gravity decided to take a very strange turn. Number 2. You can only move when no one is looking. Imagine living in a world governed by the quantum mechanics of shyness. Every time someone looks at you, you're frozen in place, like a startled deer in headlights. Only when all eyes are off, can you move freely. This isn't a quirky superpower. It's a recipe for extreme social anxiety and logistical nightmares. Navigating this literally eye-sensitive existence requires a mastery of stealth and a deep understanding of human and animal attention spans. Your daily routine becomes a complex dance of avoidance. Grocery shopping turns into a commando mission through the aisles, utilizing blind spots and strategically placed cereal boxes for cover. Crossing the street becomes a high-stakes gamble with traffic patterns and wandering gazes. The key is to predict and exploit moments of inattention. Blinking, turning heads, engaging in other conversations. These are your windows of opportunity. You'll also need to develop an uncanny awareness of your surroundings. Knowing where people are likely to look and for how long will be crucial for planning your movements. Forget about holding down a normal job or having spontaneous social interactions. Your life becomes a carefully choreographed sequence of freeze frames and furtive movements. While this might sound like a premise for a bizarre silent film, in reality, it would be a constant source of stress and potential danger. Just imagine trying to escape an actual emergency when you're stuck in place every time someone glances your way. Maybe invest in a really good pair of sunglasses for everyone you know. It's a long shot, but worth a try. Number 1. Your shadow has developed a mind of its own, and it's evil. Okay, let's get spooky. Imagine waking up one morning and noticing that your shadow isn't quite right. It's moving independently. It's grinning, and it seems to be actively trying to trip you, slam doors in your face, and generally make your life a shadowy hellscape. Congratulations, you're in a classic horror movie, except the monster is attached to your feet. Dealing with a sentient, malevolent shadow is tricky because, well, it's always with you. You can't outrun it, you can't hide from it, unless you're in complete darkness, which presents its own set of problems. Your first step is probably denial, followed by a healthy dose of screaming. But once the reality of your evil understudy sinks in, you need a strategy. Direct confrontation is likely futile. It's literally a part of you, just twisted. Maybe try reasoning with it. Appeal to its sense of self, assuming it has one beyond pure malice. If diplomacy fails, you might have to resort to psychological warfare. Try acting erratically. Confuse it with sudden movements and unpredictable behavior. Maybe even try to embarrass it by doing something really silly in public. Will an evil shadow feel second-hand embarrassment? It's worth a shot. Ultimately, your best bet might be to seek professional help. A therapist specializing in sentient appendage disorders? An exorcist who handles rogue umbre. This is uncharted territory. Just remember, always be aware of what's lurking behind you, and maybe start practicing your shadow puppets. Just in case you need to communicate with your new shadowy roommate. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.